welcome, welcome everybody to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, good people, I am in airplane mode, and now a man who really phones in his introductions because he sends them through text message, a man who needs no introduction. How you doing today, my one black friend?
I am excellent, Pocket Locker. It's wonderful to see you. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Good to see you. Good to see the chat. Look at the trees is here. All right, let's get into this because today we are going to be talking about what's wrong with gospel music. And it's interesting because it's weird because the channel we're watching, I think it's called The Smart Christian, which I'm gonna just go ahead and
The Smart Christian,
and say
all right.
that Smart Christian's channel. There may be a little bit of oxymoron happening. In
branding, it's good branding.
But you know, it's weird. I think he's going to be probably coming at it from the perspective of a religious person, like how, I guess, whatever's going on isn't serving the church or isn't encouraging people in the church the way he'd like to see. Whereas, for us, you know, we just may have a different take on it as atheists. So we may agree as to what the problems are, but disagree as to why they are a problem. So yeah, let's get into it, and we'll see how it goes.
Sorry for the wobbling.
1, 2. Get up and clap your hands, yo. Let's go, young people, hands up!
Can you pause it? Why didn't Jesus do this? Look at the crowds.
Yeah.
Why didn't Jesus have a light show, a stage, roadies, groupies? He had groupies. The whole 9 yards. Jesus could have been doing this 2,000 years ago, and instead,
in a sense, but maybe that's the legacy, right? Of because there wasn't the same entertainment culture, so maybe the preachers and the holy man and the healers, you know, they were as close as you could get to show business.
Rock stars. Yeah. Pamela DeVar famously said Jesus was the first rock star. She said that.
Yeah, it's interesting. That is a curiosity of culture back then, especially in pre-literate societies or places where there's, because you have to imagine in that world that would mean that author, like, it wasn't like there were famous books even, right? It's like now you can imagine there's still being famous writers, like famous poems that are passed down, famous stories.
You had rhapsodes
that
went around, and you had rhapsodes up back then.
Yeah, and you can even imagine like touring shows, like puppet shows or minstrel shows, and different types of forms of entertainment. But yeah, if you were a miracle worker, you know, yeah. The funny thing is, though, it's in a sense reversed, because these people are amped and hyped for the show and the entertainers, but they're supposed to be an actual miracle worker in the building.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, you're convincing all those people to believe that's a bit of a miracle in mind.
Yeah, I mean, but
well done, good and faithful servant.
Forget the concert. Let's see somebody raised from the dead up in here.
We saw that a few weeks ago on Hot Program.
Oh, Lena's getting ready for the church rush. All right. Oh yeah, when they come out from next door, they're gonna come over to the shop. Glad to have you here, Lena.
Yes.
Come on. 1, 2, go.
Good to see everybody. Oh yeah, happy birthday, AR. I forgot to say something on there.
Happy birthday, AR. Man. Thanks for tuning in.
Love it, learn it, live it, be smart. No.
Now, I'm going to cover gospel music, but I also want to kind of move into just Christian music in general, because what's happening in gospel music is also happening with just regular contemporary Christian music. As a matter of fact, you're seeing more and more today a blurring of the lines. And I'm not going to act as though I am some expert on it. I'm not. I do have a little bit of musical ability in that I play the drums. As a matter of fact, I used to teach drums for a while. So I love music. I love drums. Obviously, I love God. And one of the things that I used to be over at another church was just the overall worship portion of the service. So when you walked into the building, there was something going, because you know how we are. Sometimes we are, our attention can get different ways where, so we might put the announcements up. I made sure that all the sound and everything was working right, the cameras and the screens and so forth. But just the overall worship experience was there, that there would be nothing that would take away from what God was doing. There'd be nothing that would take away from the sermon, but also that there'd be nothing that would just kind of overshadow it. And sometimes you see that in music today, whether it be gospel. And when I say gospel, I mean, obviously there's Southern gospel, but what we're talking about today happens to be more what we would call black gospel, soulful gospel, contemporary Christian, praise and worship, just regular old choir music, that kind of stuff. And so what's happening today, is it really what we ought to be doing? Now, let me say this before I go. There is no standard that the Bible puts out that says you have to sing it this way, or this is the preferred style or method, if this is the right genre. We don't know. There will be singing in heaven. We just don't know what the genre is. And so I'm of the belief that I like to kind of have a little bit of all of it, just so, because some people have different preferences. And so my preference isn't better than yours. Yours isn't better than mine, but it's just a preference. But one of the things that we know is that, and you ask any church leader this, if you want to find out where the good fights are, where the divisions are, where all the mess is, go to the choir. Because that's just, I don't know what it is about the choir. There just seems to be a lot of stuff happening. Maybe it's because it's one of the
they're involved.
Kind of get yourself.
They're not. It's not a passive role to be in the choir.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people in it. I mean, choirs are usually big. It's like
typically, yeah.
And most of the church, a lot of the church doesn't really get together. You know, they come to the Sunday morning. They're kind of there with their family. Maybe they speak to a few friends, but most people are in and out. You know, that's their church experience. Mm-hmm. You know, the choir is working together throughout the week. They're practicing, they're rehearsing, and they're heavily involved in the church. I think a lot of his tone for this is gonna be a lot of get off my lawn type of vibe. You know, I think he's just, you know, it's the same thing that happens outside of the church, right? It's just the kids these days, and they're gyrating too much, and their music's too loud, and you know, you shouldn't need all these lights to worship Jesus or whatever. So we'll see.
Jesus is the light.
But I have an interesting perspective on this, and which may in some regard be similar to his perspective. We just might be coming to a different take. But you know, I'm also a worship musician and a drummer. But I'll give him a few more minutes before to see if this is where he's going with it.
And maybe want to express yourself, and people's feelings get hurt. Who's going to lead this song? She can't sing that well. He can't play that well. All that kind of stuff like that. That happens in every other part of the ministry as well. And sometimes when you see the way the sausage is made, so to speak, in church, you might not like it. But again, these are human beings. But as it pertains to gospel music,
I used to start shit by playing double bass in high school.
Transition into
during mass.
Regular overall Christian music as well.
It's a whole
because
thing.
Some of the same things that trouble this genre troubles others as well.
I used to throw some double bass in the shout to the Lord, and you know, it really get the students going. But you know, it was a thing with the teachers and all that stuff.
when black folks came out of slavery, obviously they're going to bring some things that they had handed down to them from their roots. Some of the rhythmic sounds and so forth that came with them from Africa. And that was also brought into slavery. And then you have these old spirituals that were sung in many cases. In many cases, they were sung to kind of lead people away if they were thinking about running. If it was time for, let's say, tonight was going to be a good night to run, they might sing the song "Sweet Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," or Michael Rowe, "The Boat Ashore." Just kind of
what he's saying running. What he means is running away. So they're going to escape from captivity. And some of these songs that were sung, these old Negro spirituals, were in a way letting you know where you could go to meet up to do this.
Right.
So that's where some of that stuff comes from.
Yeah. Yes. And that is part of generational differences that are happening in the church with the music too, where it's not so long ago that the songs were a form of subversion. They were sort of an outlet for the slaves to, you know, I don't relent. I don't know what's the right word, but basically to express their condition, their sorrow, their struggles, the things they were dealing with. And I think it was just part of coping, right? It's just part of the way they coped and dealt
it was
with slavery.
Another way to pray that also would not work.
Yeah. And or just to sing together in a way that you know master wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't get in trouble for. And then you have sort of the practicality of some of those songs, you know, embedding certain things in them that were functional, and that became part of the history. And then you go through even something like the civil rights struggle, where a lot of songs in music was used for you know, sort of expression and community identity, bonding, and all of this. Then and now it's just something different, and you know, that is part of it. It's more in line with the way popular music is used, where it's just an expression of the self. It's just what the person likes. It's an aesthetic or whatever. And I think that not only has the sound changed and the performance changed, the way it's presented changed, what it means to people and the role it plays in their life has probably shifted too. And I can imagine that feeling you know, like a detriment if you're older. Like it feels like it means less, or it's not taken as seriously, it's not utilized as seriously. You know, you don't know what these songs really meant to us, type of thing. No, they don't. They don't live those lives. They don't have that memory. But I wonder how much that plays into the perception of the change as well. Also, I don't think the changes are as great as they think they are. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but when I go back and I watch older gospel music, the type of stuff that, you know, they say, oh, this was when it was really great, or the people are still performing it up. It's just music has changed and the standards have changed. Yeah. So they were still doing mega concerts, right? And they were still wearing flashy suits or colorful outfits, or you know, having certain coordination or choreography to their stuff. You know, they still did big album covers and artistic album covers, and you know, sold lots and lots of records. So there's a certain nostalgia that almost treats it like it hasn't always been this way. I mean, since gospel music has become part of the music business and the music industry, it's always been a genre, like all genre, that's looked to be commercialized. I just think we always, you know, there's always that nostalgia of things were different. It was different when I grew up or whatever. That's kind of baked into this. Gotta load the fog machine with more Holy Spirit juice.
And so some of those old Negro spirituals were really masked as songs to help them get away. But then a lot of those songs were just songs to kind of keep them encouraged, because it was a rough life being a slave. We talk about how race relationships are today in America. No, they didn't have race relationships back then. It was just you were a slave and that was it. And so they would seem to kind of comfort themselves because what
This
happened
guy
to them
hadn't
was
seen those
they
PragerU
came
videos
to
that make
know
slavery seem
Jesus by and large.
luxurious.
And so they would speak about this. They would speak about, yeah, it's rough on this side, but when I get to that side, it'll be even better when I get to that great by and by. And so some of the songs that we sing today, that by and by, some of those songs were born out of a struggle, born out of a hurt,
Oh, there you
born out
go.
of a need.
Yeah.
And when you sing in church, there should be a couple of things that are happening. We come together in church for a lot of corporate things, corporate prayer, corporate study, corporate fellowship, but also corporate praise and worship. And so it should come as no surprise because of all that was happening, of all that kind of transpired before the 19th century, before the 20th century, a lot of the struggle was built into some of these songs. And so in some of these songs, you would hear them talk about just the struggle, just the things about how God has kept me, how God has blessed me, right? The problem is, and by the way, you would even see some of the emotional aspects. There is nothing wrong with a choir member or a singer or someone having emotion come out. Now, there are some people that have a preference where they want things to be kind of reserved and quiet. That's fine also. And there are times where folks they just can't control themselves. If any of that is genuine, then amen. If any of it is manufactured, well, then we got a problem, right? Because it should not be a place where you should go to show off how good your vocal skills are or how good you're on the piano or the drums or guitar. And that does happen, like with any band. Bands could be messy. And let's remember, when you go to church and you hear the music, the guys that are playing, that's a band, though they're in church. And so there's a little bit of messiness going on right there. That's why a lot of good bands, think about when you were younger, even today, a lot of the good bands that were in, let's say, rock or R&B or what have you, they don't last because there's fighting. Same thing happens in the church.
All right, quickly though, the thing that I'm picking up here too is there's sort of a targeting of the worship ministry that happens here. This is going to be a lot of inside baseball for church people, but the whole thing is manufactured. The whole thing is manufactured. All of it is manufactured. But you'll notice that for a lot of Christians, and again, I think I think people mature, and when they mature, things change. So you're growing, you get older, your taste change, what you like aesthetically changes. As the same time, the world is changing around you. So you're maturing and changing at the same time. Everything in your environment is moving along. But part of what I see happening is that older Christians, they really get this sort of bias towards the word. And what I mean by that is they really think that the church experience should be about preaching. It should be about the preaching, the teaching. It should be about the word of God. It should be about the gospel. It shouldn't be a show, right? And so they tend to put this criticism upon the worship ministry, but they don't put it on the preacher, and the preacher's doing the same thing, right? A lot of times the preacher is just, he's gone away from conviction and struggle and sound theology, and now he's basically a motivational speaker, right? We was talking about on our previous show, like some of these preachers nowadays, they don't even use the word Jesus in their sermon. They're just straight up motivational speeches, and you could take them and put them in a different context and they would work just as well. But and you do see some people critiquing preachers. I don't say it never happens, but this is very common. It's very easy to pick on the worship team, pick on what's going on with the songs, what's going on with the show, and not realize this whole enterprise is guilty of that. That's it. And I, to me, the epitome of it was when I would play at my grandfather's church, and I was living with them at the time. And so it's very vivid because normally everybody's preparing in their own space, their own home or whatever. But when we lived together, it's like he would be upstairs in his study, sort of doing his Saturday night preparations for his sermon the next day. And I would be in the basement practicing, getting ready to play the music. And there was just that unspoken understanding that we were both getting ready for the thing we had to do the next day.
That's
but,
right.
But why people treat this like it's unique to the music and isn't just the whole thing is kind of an interesting thing here. And but I think it comes from a genuine place. I think they see that as maturity. Yeah. Oh, I'll rotate.
Because egos take over. And so you don't want the ego or you outshining who we're supposed to be putting on display, which is obviously God, which is Jesus. We come to magnify him, we come to praise him, but we also want to thank him. And so some of the songs in gospel tend to center around what God has done for us or what he can do for us. My wife was the first person to kind of introduce me to contemporary praise and worship music, what some folks would call that, white music, right? Some of the music where, what was the song? It was Casting Crowns.
CCM.
I'm a Vapor in the Wind. I can't even, the song escaped me.
Everybody likes it, but it is,
tell me the chat of the song. I cannot,
it's perceived
I
as
cannot
white
remember the
people
name
music.
of this song. But when I first heard the song, like, wow, that's just, where has this song been all my life, or these kind of songs? And so I found myself going back listening to some of these older songs that were 10 years old, 5 years old. And it's like, I didn't know these songs existed. I'm just stuck in this old gospel way, which is fine. The problem is that many of these songs, even after we've come out of the bigger struggle, they tend to be centered more about what I'm going through. And God, you blessed me and how you kept me and so forth, which are good songs. That's fine. But we did not sing enough about songs that were about him. God, you're awesome. You're wonderful. Even if you don't bless me, God, you're amazing. Those kind of songs. And so we see that in gospel. One of the problems that happens in gospel is partly because of the emotion. Again, some of these things you'll see.
All right, so what Wayne is saying though right now, that's kind of where I was gonna get at with some of this. Hello, my fellow youths. I'm hip. I'm down. I listen to the same music, but not the same. Here's the art you like, but with a hollow, blood-filled center. Can I invite you to my blood cult? That's the thing is, the church has to attract people in the context of the wider culture. And so if your stuff does not appeal to people in a way that it would appeal to them if you set aside the Jesus stuff, they're just not going to come to your church. Mm-hmm. And so people that are serious about this, I mean, even like as musicians, when I'm preparing for a service, like you're preparing to put on a concert and you treat it like that, and you need to play those songs as good or better than they would be played in a concert setting. And and you're trying to put yourself musically on the same level as any other musician. Like you're trying to, whatever, if there's certain chops or feels or sounds or sonics that are, hot right now, or this is what people are doing, like just little stuff like the things you keep around the kit as different splash symbols and effect symbols and China symbols, show up more in popular music. They're going to show up more in the church. If there's particular style of chops or rudimentary things that drummers are doing outside the church, you're going to do them in the church because you're trying to get with it. When I talk to even like DJs who DJ, like say they'll do DJing, but like all their music is religious music, like Christian rap or whatever. They're listening to Hot 97. Like I've talked to one who said, like, I don't even listen to Christian radio. I don't listen to religious music. Like that's what I play. That's what I build. That's my art. But I need to know what people are listening to in the streets. So I'm listening to just the same stuff everybody else is listening to. That way I know what the sound is right now.
Right. So you can play Christian music that mimics that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know that's kind of deconstructing the whole thing, but it's just the reality of it. The other thing is it's competitive. Like people have options. Christianity is so ubiquitous that there's a lot of churches within, say, a 5 or 10 mile radius of, most people's homes. And so if you don't like the worship style over here, you're going to go over there. And as, people that are involved in the service, you're acutely aware of that. And so you want your church to, bring it, to have the good lights, to have the good show, to have the good setup, to have the best instruments, to have the best sound system, because all of that is going to create an attractive experience that people want to come back to. The other thing
you definitely
is
want 26,000 people there on Sunday.
Yeah, the other thing is some of this stuff, especially on the tip that he's talking about, it just becomes anti-charisma. The kids talk about having the Riz these days. This is apparently this with Riz. They talk about having the Riz. This stuff is anti-Riz. It's like there's this effort, this conflation that if something is, I'm gonna just say, difficult, if something's hard to get through, if something's not aesthetically pleasing, then it's more godly. And what that leads to is these churches that want to play these dry hymns and these boring songs, and they have this like holier than thou feeling, like, oh, we're better, we're closer to the true heart of gospel because we make sure that there's 2 or 3 dry as a Ritz cracker songs every week. And honestly, it just kills the set. It kills the vibe. It's really annoying. You have to like bury those songs in the middle of the set because they're such downers. But they do this, and it's real. It's like self-flagellation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it actually drives me crazy as a musician because we have to put all this time and effort into preparing, and we're preparing something that's not good. It's like spending 5 hours preparing an appetizer that doesn't taste good because you think that's going to make people want the entree more. It's not. And the other thing that always drives me crazy about this is you don't need to do this because your congregation already believes.
That's right.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir in a sense. The whole congregation is the choir. And so you don't really need people to be convicted of their sin through the music and make sure they're getting the correct theology. They already believe. They already pay their tithes. They already are in a small Bible study group. They already go on all the church field trips. Like their level of intensity is that what are you trying to get out of them? So that becomes very annoying too. You just don't need that. People to come to service, they want to have a good time, they want to have a nice time. Give it to them so they don't go somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, I went to a non-denominational church, one of these New Thought churches, as I was exiting belief in God, and they had choir Sunday. So I think it was once a month only that they would have the choir there. The attendance would swell. And the minister's wife was the music leader. And they decided, like, wow, we get all these people coming just for the choir each week. So let's try to make this smaller for the people who want to be here for the message and not the choir. So let's just do the choir once a week, once a month. Maybe it was twice. I think it was only once though. And it was just, even in the parking ministry, you could tell when it was choir Sunday because even we had trouble parking. We would get there early, like we wanted space. Granted, I used to park far away because I didn't mind. I'm like, nah, we have handicapped people, pregnant women, and people with small children. I can get on the van or just walk over here. It's not a big deal. But yeah, there were lots of people on a choir Sunday, and they just came for the music. They didn't give a rip about the message, what was being said.
Right.
So
yeah, I also just think churches are not honest about them. Like, if I were to talk to if I were to be honest, I would say that for most Black Christians I know, gospel music is the center of their faith. The church
think
experience
so?
is not. The church is not. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
I
Because
couldn't imagine. Wow.
because that is how they experience their personal relationship, right? It's to them, it's about the personal relationship. They're in church, maybe they're in church for maybe 90 minutes on Sunday, and for a lot of them, that's a bit too long, right? The 45-minute sermon is like, okay, they'll sit through it, but it's kind of a lot of people, they're there because they love the worship. They're there because they like the show, they like the presentation. It's not always a one-to-one match with the genre of the music or what songs are played, but normally the aesthetics and the show and the excellence sort of overcomes it. And then they spend the rest of their time on their own. And I think for a lot of them, it's the music is an important part of their daily routine, maybe their workout routine, maybe their devotional time. And I honestly think that that's how most folks, especially because, I hate to say, a lot of our folks is not really educated like that. That's their theology. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. That's not something they know from the Bible. They know that because it's a Fred Hammond song. Jesus is real. That's John P. Key. People can't quote scripture to you. They don't know what's in the Psalms, what's in the gospel, what's in the new covenant, what's in the old covenant. They know Fred Hammond, they know Stephen Curtis Chapman, they know Yolanda Adams, they know the music, and for so many of us, that's you assume that the message is biblical and of the right theology, but that's how you experience, and that's what and I think when certain things come to you, like if you have a hard time in life or you feel blessed by God or whatever, again, the music will speak to you. You're not going to, go home and pull up pastor's sermon on trials and tribulations. Oh, I think it was part 3. I think it was part 3 where he was that's no.
Well, when I see my cousin's wife, she's a famous gospel singer. I'm not gonna say who. When I see her again, probably next month, I'll ask her, does she view, as you stated, like gospel music is more for a lot of people the center of their faith, and it's not church. It's the music. I'll have to ask her about that.
Yeah. I wonder what they'll say. Yeah, I'd be curious.
Traits that you see in contemporary Christian music and just your regular old praise and worship music. Even in their different genres. Some folks are into this, like Christian rap and so forth. I really hadn't quite got into Christian rap, although I'm not against it. There are a few artists that I do listen to, but I don't know, calling me getting old or whatever, I just don't listen to it as much. But you'll see some of these same traits that are in gospel music that are also in the other genres, because it's just human beings singing, hopefully to the praise of God. Well, as the emotions kick in, the question is, when this person is singing, are they singing more so much because they love God or because they're trying to show off? One of the things you'll know about Black gospel music is that the runs are exaggerated and long. So you all know about, if we just started singing Amazing Grace, we all at least know the first verse, right? But here we've got someone singing Amazing Grace, and this is just the first verse, and it takes quite a long time.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
This is one of the few songs I actually hate.
I was gonna say
it's so overdone.
Yeah, it's too much. Look at the drummer. He's just sitting there bored. We just sitting there like, please.
Oh, I
See, He wouldn't sing this way if he wasn't playing piano, because no one else has the patience.
Right. Right.
But now
Even God has something to do right now, right?
Oh,
This is a perfect clip, though.
It is.
It epitomizes the whole thing.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing, though. This is black music, right? This is we are this way with our R&B. This is jazz. I mean, jazz. You know, I came up playing jazz and jazz
That's
band.
true.
All
It's
this
a
stuff,
jazz
and
version of the song.
Yeah, you just taking it. You just taking a phrase and stretching it out. And so it's so weird too, because on one hand, you want to say you could get this kind of perspective if you pay too much attention to other styles of music. Like, it's almost like, oh my goodness, it's like a Christian listening to other styles of music and going, oh my God, the music in church isn't holy because it's just doing the same stuff as all these other genres. But you could also get this perspective if you're exclusively in the church and you don't realize that this is just how black people play music.
Well, another thing about sameness is it makes something relatable. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Christianity didn't invent that, but it makes the religion more relatable, helping poor, helping disadvantaged people, things like that. It makes individuals in modern day society more relatable, things like that. So I think that's
Right.
really the key to sounding like everybody else.
And you're not gonna,
as far as music goes,
and you're not gonna say the music was good to you unless you get some of those cues. You know, you get the dude doing the runs and the dude doing the solo and the drummer sounding good and the bass player sounding good. That cues you the same way it cues you when you go to a concert and you go, man, they're really killing it tonight. You leave church going, oh man, that was really awesome. The other thing is, they're supposed to be gifts of the Holy Spirit, you know.
right?
So, you know, is it a gift of the Holy Spirit to just sing it like it sounds in the hymnal straight through one time? It's almost like the runs and the expression and all of that can be seen as showing off is it's supposed to be the evidence and the manifestation of being gifted, right? So
exactly,
you buy into that.
It's one of the talents you were given.
Yeah.
This does make me wonder, what would the Weird Al Yankovic version of Amazing Grace sound?
Man, I would love to hear some parody gospel music. The closest thing I did is I remember when we were in middle school, we would take songs we were singing in like school mass, and we would take out Jesus and insert the name of girls we had crushes on. A little weird looking back on it, a little creepy, but we were kids, you know, we were young as hell.
Well,
but,
I'll tell you what, Pocket Locker,
it works. It definitely works.
I have a very good sing. I don't have one singing voice. My singing voice can pretty much do pretty much anything, like with a male voice, right? Pretty much anything. Opera, rock and roll, country, blues, and this gospel stuff. So if you think of the parody song, I'll sing it. You think of it, audience members, that's open to you too. I'll gladly sing your parody gospel song.
Right now I can see.
That's part of the thing. If you go to some of these black churches, if you got somewhere to be immediately after church, you might as well just not go. Just call and tell them you're not going to be there on time. Because
Christian, that's great. Congratulations.
Yes,
I hope they
well
keep
done,
going.
Christian.
I'll be honest with you. The thing that's so disappointing sometimes is like when you start having those conversations with somebody, because they're not preloaded with a bunch of stuff. You know, they really are wonderful, pleasant conversations. For me, I'm disappointed because it's like a lot of the people a few of the people I've started to have those conversations with, it's like they went and they got schooled on some apologetics after those initial conversations. And after a while, when they started coming back with that stuff and it wasn't working, the conversations just trailed off. And it's so disappointing. Right. The one thing I always just want more than anything is for somebody to just keep going with it. You know, just keep pursuing, just keep thinking about it, just keep learning, growing. So So look, Christian, I say that to say if you don't know how to stop those conversations from shutting down later, none of us have figured it out. But enjoy it while it lasts. And if nothing else, it feels great to be honest with people.
The Christians have figured it out. You just have to have faith, bless your heart, and God bless you. Have a good day. Like those are fantastic ways to end a conversation, whether you're upset or not. For YouTube Punk, you pick the genre. YouTube Punk, I'll give you a sample. You pick the genre.
That's
big
part of the thing.
Fine Wayne.
Maybe that's why when I didn't go to church as a little boy. Maybe that's why I just hated being there for so long. The preaching may have been about this long, and the singing was this long. We're going to sing for this much before and this much afterwards.
About that word.
And so sometimes listen. Sometimes it's genuine. Sometimes though you wonder, man, are you guys doing this for you? Because again, I know about what it's like playing in a band. And you want to have fun, and it's okay if you are singing to enjoy yourself. You should enjoy yourself praising God. Praising God should not be a chore, but praising God should not be about you as well. And so the question that we often wonder, and I've had times, I'm sure other people in ministry have had these occasions where they've had to tell somebody, maybe a drummer, maybe a guitar player, maybe someone else, hey, listen, it's not about you. You want to settle down. So the question is, are these guys praising God?
All right. So that has actually happened to me when I was in high school. I was kind of feeling myself. My chops were getting better, and I just felt like I could do more. I was starting to add different bells and whistles and cymbals and stuff like that to my drum kit. And I got sat down for a mass or two, like. Our music teacher was like, look, I need you to, go back to listening and paying attention to what's going on and with everybody around you. And it's a very kind of like traumatic experience as a young musician, because I look at what so many of the YouTube drummers are doing today, like on YouTube, on social media and stuff. And I'm just thinking, man, you guys are lucky because they wasn't letting us show out like that when I came up, man. Man, it was consequences and repercussions when we got too loose. But at the same time, I credit that with a lot of my strength as a musician, which has always just been my discipline and decision making and actually being very conservative, but that's where it comes from. So I'm kind of like appreciative of it because it was a real kind of lesson in musicianship, and I'm definitely like a very disciplined sort of keep. It's why I'm pocket locker. Keep everything in the pocket. Keep everything tight. But experiences like that are why. So it's funny to hear him talk about that. Look, he ain't bullshit, man. People get sat down. I guess
the thinking is it's not about you. It's not about you. So
yeah,
you can't
exactly.
Get there showing off. But yeah. I don't know. I would
but
argue.
But it's the same way in all music, though.
I would argue there are audience members who get a genuine thrill out of seeing talented people. In a way, that example from that church I went to proves it, that on Choir Sunday, there was this swell of people there. That might prove your point, too, where their faith was centered in the music. Yeah. For some people, that's probably true. Other people probably just wanted to hear, look, I can't pay Taylor Swift $2,000 for a ticket, but I can throw $20 in the collection plate and get 30 minutes of really great singing from this choir. Excuse me, and endure whatever vacuous sermon is being given that day. Fine, sit me down, give me a good seat. So I think in a way, unless the person was going on like a 15-minute solo, I don't know that you need to shut people down for wanting to do their best. The Bible's constantly telling people to do their best. So I don't know that it's bad.
Yeah,
if you're just trying to overshadow people, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, it's just it always comes down to choices to me. Like that's the name of the game, and unfortunately, you usually can't do both. So like you can't underplay and overplay at the same time. So you know, underplaying is always going to be the safer route. But yeah, there's definitely places, and I think that's part of maybe what he's kind of getting into, especially because that's a huge difference between like CCM, contemporary Christian music, or gospel music, or what we might call white people church music versus black people church music, is overplaying and chops and runs and live arrangements and all of that has become the norm and the standard in black churches. It's kind of what's expected. And so that's where the musician compete. And look, and some of this stuff is you gotta, you know, look, it gets really hardcore. If you go somewhere that's urban, metro, big city, Wayne could probably tell you, Minneapolis, East Coast, you go to like New York, New Jersey, you gotta remember these churches are competing. And so are the musicians. My uncle used to get $1,000, wouldn't think about sitting down in your church for less than $1,000 a service, you know, and he expects that in hand when he gets up off the bench. And they play some of them play 2 or 3 services or 2 or 3 churches. I mean, and they're hustling. It's always about you know, finding that church that could really pay you. And for the church, it's about, you know, having a big enough ministry and paying that expense. So people have that signature. Like like the greatest compliment anybody's ever paid to me about playing is like when I played my dean of students from high school. When he passed away, I played his funeral or whatever. And you know, people were coming up to me after service and they were like, I knew that was you, because we were up in a choir loft. So they're like, yeah, I knew. I didn't even have to turn around. He said, as soon as I heard them drums, I knew that was you. And that meant so much to me, because that's what people always said about my uncle, was you could tell it was him outside the church. You had to look who he was on. Just the way he played was very distinct. And so that's the life, right? It's like competitive. And that's who I grew up influenced by, like people who was not a game. My uncle kicked me off the drums. I was playing. I've been playing for years. I've been taking private lessons. I was playing in school band. I thought I was nice, and I tried to sit down and play with my uncle, and my timing wasn't tight. He would nope. And again, those are very traumatic experiences. Literally, like kicked me out. Like, nah, you can't play with me now. Because later, that made me get better, right? That made me work harder, really work on my timing. And so later, as a young man, like when we actually were playing together, and when he would call me when he needed a drummer, that meant so much to me, because I really knew I had progressed. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting topic. It's an interesting topic because it's a lot of nuance. Like he's not wrong with what he's saying. There's just all these other things that are happening that are, you know, part of this situation.
I want to acknowledge something KCA Randy has said, that there's 24 people at his workplace and 7 are atheists.
Whoa,
that's fantastic. I'd be willing to bet probably more than half of them are atheists, but there's some that will speak up about it, or they don't know what you mean when you say atheism, you know, or they have the fluffy God. A lot of people have the fluffy God. Go ahead, Pocket Locker.
Slapping. Yeah, gotta stand up. We get tired of sitting down. Let's go. Come on, we've been working on this all week. Let's get it.
And so that's,
can you imagine Jesus and his disciples pulling up in your town?
Bro, we trying. You don't know. We think, we had the exact opposite response. People like, yo, y'all live, man. Y'all are live, man. I like this, man. This is fun. This is fun. All I can say is I only wish ministries I played at would let us get away with some of that stuff.
and play the drums. That's hard. Now the guy's talented. He's gifted, and maybe that's what he's trying to show off.
Bro,
and there
he's just
is
having
the
fun,
little tension
man.
that a lot of choirs and churches have. Hey, listen, it's not about you. It's about him. And I get that you're talented. If you weren't talented, we wouldn't have you playing. But you're trying to I never forget this one time. We had lighting at our church.
Oh, so y'all, y'all got me standing up for worship musicians here. It's so weird. But look, I'm gonna say a couple of real things. Number one, we just trying to have fun. Playing drums is fun. It should be fun. Number two, everybody else is standing. Like half the band is already standing. It really doesn't matter if one more person stands up. But number three, like, there is a way, again, it's a performance, right? And I always say, I want this reverse thing to happen. I want the audience to always have that sort of expected feeling of, it looks so cool to be in the band. The band looks like they're having so much fun. Wouldn't it be awesome to be in the band? Because you look at the band, you see them, they're performing, they're having a great time, and you're like, man, I wish I would play guitar or something like that, right? But at the same time, the band should be so into the music that they make the audience feel like they're jealous of the audience, because the band should give you the impression that they're just having so much fun with this song that it's a shame I have to play drums right now. Like when I'm really playing on Sunday morning, you get that feeling like I just want to jump out my seat. I just want to wave my hands. I just want to sing along. I just want to sing to the top of my lungs, but I can't because I got to sit back here and play drums. And so that drummer was giving that to me. He was really making me feel like he's into this song, like he's having fun, like, yo, this is the best thing to do right now. Because I hate cold musicians. When I go to a church service or a concert and the musicians are just sitting there frigid and they're all cool, calm, and collected and they're not into it, like, it just takes me out of the whole thing. If you're bored, why am I here? Why am I sitting in the audience watching you and you're not even interested in what you're doing? So yeah, that's how I feel.
I went to an audition to be one of the characters in a video game that was a music video game, and I was the drummer. And the casting lady to me, she goes, "You look so bored," and I thought, "You have never been a drummer." You've never played in a band. You've never been a drummer ever, because it's so rote. What you're doing is so rote. You know, it's just you just get so used to it. And but whatever. You know, there's no engagement from the other people. The bassist and the guitarist in that audition. I'm like, ma'am, if you watch these video games, every drummer's like that. Everyone.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do I know?
You got it. That's what you got it. That's why you got to bring the energy.
But I look, when she said that, I did that for her, but that's not for what they're. When I look at the genre, that's not the reality.
Sure, yeah,
that's not
absolutely. And a lot of times it's not in it's not in the song. It's just not there. It's not. And
with what she was playing, it's not in there. It wasn't exciting drums. It was just some boring music from some stock file, made by a guy who had to play all the instruments and use a beat that was already in his keyboard probably to come up with the rest of it. I'm like, if that's what you're giving me, I have to match the energy of the song. And I guess that's not what she wanted. Fine, I gave her what she asked for after she asked for it. But to me, I'm like, this has to look ridiculous because I'm up here and the music's down here.
Right.
Well, when I was down here, she didn't like it. So now I went up here and, whatever. I'm using one hand when I should be using two. Stuff like that, like I'm waving my stick around, doing all this stuff, and just look. Evidently, I'm digitally awesome. It's fine. Whatever. I good luck to whoever got it.
Exactly. Cameron's talking about his church growing up. that it was very boring music and the musicians were never into it. Yeah, and no drums though. That's
No
just,
drums allowed. Okay,
yeah,
now this is
that happens
funny
a lot.
because the drum is clearly one of the oldest instruments ever used. You know, it's got a long history. So
But
I find that
they make people gyrate. That's why. I don't know what
that
it
was
is.
a problem with my
Literally-
audition. I guess I wasn't gyrating enough while I was sitting down.
Yeah, that's what I'll be into
Mistake.
it, man. I get into it, man. People know I got the best seat in the house.
Button have the light aim a certain way. And we had a drummer come in who wanted to kind of fill in with the youth choir. And he said, can you get one of those lights to kind of shine on me? You know, as I got this particular role. And I said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I got a light just for you. I'm gonna have one particular light shine on you. But I want you to sit your little narrow behind right there in that first pew. That's where you're gonna be, and we'll have somebody else playing. I'll have a light shine on you because you just made it about you. We're not gonna have that. Now, if he was smart, if he was smart, he'd have kept his mouth closed. So, but we had that problem in church, right? And so
Don't ever.
you deal with
terrible
it.
story to tell people.
The problem is trying to kind of recapture really what it used to be compared to what it is now. And I don't know how old some of you guys are, and how old you or how long you guys have been even watching or paying attention to Christian music and gospel music. Some things are different, obviously. I mean, obviously with time, you get more amenities. I mean, we didn't have intelligent lighting in the 50s and 60s, right? You didn't have some of the microphones that you had. You didn't have some of the building designs, the lighting and so forth. You didn't have all that stuff that you had back then. You didn't have the in-ear mics and so forth that you had, that you have now back then.
Monitors.
And so the issue is, should we try to even compare how it was back then? Or should we be like we were back then? Should we be different because it's a different time? But you all tell me, you look at these two clips and tell me, is there any sort of difference? And then also, if gospel is not your genre, see if you see the same thing in other genres, contemporary Christian, Southern gospel, what have you.
Oh, it's the old school. Let's go. That's that right there. That feels great.
So now compare what you just saw with her and what you saw with those music versus this.
But you could go back 50 years before that and see a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even that far. If you had like the Blind Boys of Alabama, where they're out there, go ahead, drive the nails into my hands. You know, it's like way different than what she's doing.
Right.
She's way more produced than they were.
Absolutely.
And
that's what I meant.
Nothing radical about what she's doing.
And back then that was considered, people would go crazy about that. Why do you need 50 people in the choir? Why they gotta have such bright robes on? Why do you need 4 keyboard players? Why do they look like they're going to prom? You know, but this is a great juxtaposition here. And by the way,
with the bass up here, they're playing the bass drum, bass guitar.
This lighting is awesome. The way he's got this show, the way they got this stage lit.
And what you saw with those groups versus this.
Woo!
It's grooving, Jesus.
Now, I am intentionally turning the volume down because I want you to look at this video and you tell me, could you tell me that they are singing anything closely or remotely related to Jesus?
Because they don't have on robes.
So. I don't think you can look at this and come away with the conclusion that they are singing unto God. What has happened is
too much gyration.
It has now become
aren't they making a joyful noise
and so
unto the Lord?
Yes.
Isn't that the point?
Yes. And again, I kind of agree with them because again, it's a problem to the extent that I think it's a big part of the reason people are not thinking critically about their faith. They're into the gospel music, they're into the lifestyle, they're in the concert Jesus and all of this stuff. And so, you know, they're never going to start to think about the bigger picture and those important questions. But aesthetically, it just is what it is. It's just the times we live in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the times we live in. And yeah, this is why he's got the get off my lawn vibes here.
And in these wars, you got the red carpet, and you've got people who who come down and they want to look a certain way, they want to dress a certain way. It's about their image, all of that stuff. And that's the sick side, the satanic side of really just gospel music, Christian music in general. Because after a while, we want to make sure we're getting paid. We want to make sure that we're getting booked for other tours that people want us to come. Because oftentimes in some of these,
wait,
we don't see the concerts taking place.
Wait. One of the commandments in the Bible is to pay a person a wage for their work the same day that they work. You don't make them wait 2 weeks, 1 week into the week to get paid. You don't do that. You should not muzzle the ox when it's treading out the grain. How is this a problem? How is it a problem?
No, this is a whole thing. That's
right.
We should do a whole episode on that. But basically, I think churches, there's some stuff I could pull that we could do an episode on it. But I think churches exploit their musicians.
I'm pretty sure if I added up all the money I made being in the parking industry or parking, not industry, which is a really good industry. Ministry. Yeah. If I added up all the money that I got paid to be in that, I'm pretty sure it's $0.
Right.
And 0 cents.
Yeah. Churches exploit a lot of labor. We
would see a heavy metal concert or a rock concert or an R&B concert or anything like that. They're not usually booked in stadiums. Usually these artists are booked in churches. And so there needs to be this desire, this swelling of interest to have this person to come. And so if they see them, maybe their guest appearance with someone at a performance, so they'll come to such and such church, that church. The way that happens is someone needs to coordinate that, but they need to be seen. And so they'll go out there, and oftentimes you think that these people were on a Hollywood red carpet. You would think that these people are I don't know, going to the Grammys or going to the Emmys. I can't remember which one is for music, but we got a problem, right? It should be that there's a clear line. I'm going to get to the scriptures in a little bit, but there should be a clear line between what the world does and what we do.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying there won't be any similarities. Obviously there will be, but when you look like them, when you kind of grind and move like them, why come to church? I'm good with what I'm doing. I'll just read my Bible on my own, right? And so what has happened is, as they have tried to reach out, and the bad thing about a lot of times in gospel music, and it's the same thing in contemporary Christian, is one of the first things that seeps in is bad doctrine, right? Now, I'm going to say something that might be a little bit controversial, but that's okay. I didn't write the Bible. I'm just simply saying what it says. And so this issue, even of tongues, comes up. Yeah. And if a person believes in tongues, okay, fine. We won't argue that right now. But what about tongues when you're singing? I'll be honest.
Look how excited that drummer was.
Verse and chorus.
That's the difference. Okay, this is the contemporary Christian game. And so many of those songs have just the steps straight ahead rock beat. I actually really like playing it. I think it's fun.
I'll be honest. I've never.
I get way more. I would have been way more into it than that, dude.
Verse and chorus sung in tongues, and okay, fine, they believe in that. Well, okay. Well, who's interpreting that? And I wonder if they put the words on the screen. Are they putting the tongues on the screen? And I know I'm sounding silly.
You're overthinking this, bro.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun when Christians take a look at Christianity from the outside.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a little bit like the tongue, it's kind of fun. Like, dude, all you got to do is not stop talking. There's so much ground to cover. Let's see you lay some hands on some people and heal them. Show me that. We could just keep going, but they don't.
Nope. But hey, step one is a step.
People, when we're singing the show, who's the most godly, who's the most spiritual, who's the most whatever. It's as though when we sing, people are, instead of seeking him, they're seeking their own. And that's really what a lot of times a lot of music has kind of delved into gospel, obviously, praise and worship, contemporary praise and worship. All of it, it's almost about what we want. God, give me some stuff, right?
Stop it! One of my favorite comments ever in YouTube history has just been offered by Aunt Jer. Is there a difference between singing in tongues and scatting?
Oh,
thank you. I kind of don't care what else happens today.
Nope. That's perfect.
I cannot answer your question out there. I do not have
That's
an
what
answer.
it is. It's just holy scatting. Yeah.
Holy scatting. Yes.
Wow.
I hope I remember that for when it comes up in the future, because surely it will.
And this part here, again, this is the times we live in. This is about the prosperity gospel, which is the gospel at this point. I think that's why they get so mad when you talk about it. But it's because this is the religion most Americans probably grew up with. So if you tried to take this away and go back to, again, hard theology, because that's all these guys ever want. They just literally just has to be difficult. People would be out. They're like, I'm not in for this. But yeah, this is what people are. This is my season for greatness. It's about you. It's the same thing we always talk about with the athletes. When they win, it's I just want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for bringing me this victory over my enemies and all of this shit. When they get knocked the hell out, they don't have anything to say. But I think this is how most people experience it. This is what it's about. It's about they're supposed to have this relationship with Jesus, and they're supposed to have a blessed life in return.
But baby, go ahead and prophesy. Say this. Everything is working together for my good.
Oh, he's trying to get his R. Kelly on.
Give me some stuff, bless me, and then that's how I'm going to praise you. That's why I'm going to praise you. Well, that's an artificial, cheap praise. It's conditional praise, right? God, do for me before I do for you. Forget the fact, God, that you've already done more than anyone can ever do, or I could hope for anyone to do. Forget that. I need some more. What you did was not enough. And so, God, I need some things. And I promise you, Lord, if you give me this, I'm going to praise you. So I'm going to shout. I'm going to do all these things that I should have been doing. And it teaches people who are also listening, because when a person comes to church and they hear that, they believe all of this is approved by the church leadership. And so if it's said in the choir and sang, then it passed through the hands of the pastor as well. One of the things that a wise pastor would do is to always make sure that I see what you guys are singing, that we kind of coordinate this. I want to know what you're singing. Why? Because if you say something that's just out there, who's got to come back and fix that? Who's responsible for these people that are going amiss because you said something that was just really utterly unfounded and unbiblical? For example,
control.
There's a guy from my hometown of Indianapolis named Donald Lawrence. Got some good songs, but some of the songs just aren't necessarily biblical, right? And that happens a lot because people that sing, they're not necessarily theologians, they're not studying, although I think they probably should, because you're still up before the people ministering and they look at you. And so I think you ought to be doctrinally straight as well. But he has a song, it's called The Sound of My Breathing. And he takes the tetragrammaton, the yod, hey, the YHWH that we have in English, and says that means, it's been kind of a thing for the last maybe 20 years. People have tried to say that is the unpronounced name of God, that those four letters are actually what the sound of breathing is, and that's God's name. And they make it into something really, really spiritual. Oh my God, that's what that means. That's God's breathing. No, it's not. Okay. Ask someone who's Hebrew, who can speak Hebrew, ask some Jewish person, is that the case? And they'll say no. That's just silly. That's just Christians looking to be more than what we are. That's not what it means. Well, then having vowels, well, here's the truth. Hebrew words, period, do not come with vowels, at least in the Old. The Masoretic text added the vowels later, so people who, as they were taken into captivity and began to stop speaking Hebrew, when they tried to learn it, they were unfamiliar with the words, and so the Masoretes.
Okay, stop. But they're just gonna say they write songs, right? Like they just write songs.
They
and
were
this
inspired. They were filled with the
and
divine rush from the Holy Spirit.
yeah, this guy's just taking all this way too seriously. You know, I get that you want to have songs that encourage people in the word or whatever, but in the reality, even for a gospel musician, yeah, they might have some songs that are inspired biblically, but a lot of times there's not, in other words, I don't see there being anything wrong with people just being like, we just make songs for people to worship to or to enjoy. Like it's not, you know, not every song is supposed to be a Bible lesson.
Put these vowel markings there so they can know what's saying. To come up with this goofy idea that it's the sound of God speaking, I mean of us breathing, that's just not, now you're making up something. Okay, so what we want to do, though, as always, we want to go to the text and just be mindful. Listen, I got a few more things I want to say as well. And so let's go to, I hope I put it in the dark mode. Hope you guys can see this. But he says, in Romans 14:16 says, so do not let what you regard as good be evil spoken of. Or some versions may say, don't let your good be evil spoken of. And so the reason why that's important is if you're singing, if you're involved in something, it should not be an occasion for an offense to be caused, for someone to see something. Now, in this case, he's talking about if someone sees you eating meat, and though eating meat is not sinful, don't do it in front of the people, right? Well, nowadays, though, we're doing things that look to be sinful or questionable. Avoid those things. My third oldest child, Hannah, her job is a praise and worship leader at a church for the youth. And we had a conversation before, and it was about just your appearance,
her
right?
Whole thing.
Now, she doesn't dress in a provocative way.
Oh my goodness!
But you got youngsters there who might be looking at you, and you want to be mindful of that, so that no young man, no older man will look at you objectively as though you're some piece of meat. That nothing that you do, nothing that you wear, takes away from the gospel, right? Well, we see this a lot nowadays in churches. We see people who just have forgotten how to dress. And I know it's hard, ladies. I'm speaking to ladies right now, but also guys. I know it's hard to find clothes that just aren't, tight and got your veins showing. I get that. But understand, when you wear those things, I don't care how godly the guy is, he's going to notice that, right? And then some of the stuff that the men are wearing. Again, I was under a rock maybe. But some of the things that the men are wearing, and maybe it's just me. I'm out of touch, I guess. I'm still not down with
no more sparkly pants for me if I go back.
But even some of the things that, let's say, that like you saw the Kirk Franklins of the world wearing, it's like, what are you wearing? What are you doing? What do you have to prove? You know what I mean? Okay, fine. You got a few dollars. You can buy something that's fashionably in vogue, whatever. But again, we want to have a holy appearance. Granted, we're not going back to robes and to whatever they wore in the first century church time. I get that, but we don't also have to look like the world, like we're selling our bodies, right? And so,
okay, can you pause it?
He said, "Yeah, that's kind of now." Listen, I play.
Not to make it about politics, but what does John Fetterman wear to church? If he could wear a hoodie to go up here, and represent New Jerseyans. Jerseytes? I don't know. Jerisites? If he could wear a hoodie for that, what does he wear to church? I think this guy's kind of missing the point to some degree. The Bible is very much a sort of a come as you are kind of text. If you're a woman, you're not supposed to wear earrings or have your hair in a particular way. You're supposed to dress in a respectful manner, but there are people who probably were going to the temple in the very best clothes they had or the only clothes they had because they wanted to be humble. They wanted to give what they could. They wanted to be in fellowship with their fellow Hebrews. They wanted to praise God because they were grateful for what they had or fearful that he would knock the crap out of them. Right. As we see in many scriptures. So I think this guy might be off base a little. Yeah, you probably don't want to wear nothing. You probably don't go to church in your bikini. But if you have gaucho pants and a t-shirt, that's probably acceptable before a God, if there is one.
And that's how churches are too. They're come as you are to get you in, and then once you're in, it's like that's when you realize that now all of a sudden they've got all these weird expectations of you.
Right. And Doorknob Head did answer my question. Fetterman wears his Sunday hoodie and Sunday shorts. Thank you, Doorknob Head. And now I know.
For these people that are going amiss, because you said something that was just really 1 Thessalonians 5:22. Am I there? He says, abstain from every form of evil. And guys, I promise you, I was trying to not bring up any Greek, but I will. This word form is the word edus, which is just the outward appearance. So this is where some versions might say, avoid the very appearance of evil. So when you're singing, avoid the appearance of evil. Avoid it looking like it's about you and you're at some show, you're at some concert. Avoid that. That should not be the case. It should not be that when we see you, we see all the lights. I don't have a problem with some of the lights. I do have a problem with the what do you call it, pyrotechnics. I do have a problem with some of the illuminations that just make it, the smoke. I have a problem with that because now we're what are we doing, y'all? We're getting to where we're trying to entertain, and so
you know what?
Now
Pause
the attention
it.
is not.
You're giving people are paying what, upwards of $50-$60 to go to some of these things. Give them something for their money. I think the smoke and the lights and the flying man, which I don't know if the rest of you are watching, but I saw it. Things like that make it fun. And some of them, including the flying man in that clip, are ridiculous. And for someone like me with a bit of a strange sense of humor, that's kind of what makes it good, is that like, no, that's silly. That's silly. Do you really need to be flying around? Can't you just walk out like Taylor Swift does and just start singing? Well, she doesn't always walk, but can't you just walk out like Freddie Mercury and just start singing? Can't you just do that? But yeah, they're paying all that cash. Give them the light show. Give them a great performance with 64 people on stage with you. You can have a dancing drummer like Pocket Locker or what have you. Give them all that, because it ain't cheap and it ain't free. So
some of them are just straight up giving 10% of their income, right? So
well,
that's a hefty ticket price.
If it's not like a special concert or something like that, yeah, if it's just in the church, what have you. But I say there's no problem with going above and beyond. A lot of this stuff. Okay, so like when I would go to I would meet with the Buddhists. I would go to their gathering and I would sit there and they would start chanting. That's what they do to get into their message for the day or for the evening. That's what they would do. When I went to a Buddhist temple, they would chant. When I went to this Korean group, right, where Sanjay Nim is the god, they would chant. That was their thing to get them in to the zone where they could hear the message for the day. When I went to Christian churches, it was the music. That was part of leading them into a space, really, it's priming, leading them into a space where they are prepared to get the message. Probably psychologically speaking, they might have remembered things better because of that. Right? It might have deepened their involvement because of that priming. In all of those different genres of religion, it probably helped the people internalize the message better. I went to a Thich Nhat Hanh retreat, and it was a silent retreat. So I think we got there Friday, and you couldn't talk until Sunday. And it was kind of amazing to see how people were sort of accepting that they couldn't speak. The most interesting people to watch were the monks there, because the monks, this was nothing new to them. They didn't even have to, as far as I saw, there was no investment in trying to be silent. They simply were silent. So for other people, like my then girlfriend at the time, she kind of was like, she did pretty well, I have to say. Me, I'm a talker. So I was like, I'm suffering, people. I have criticism for almost everything I see. But it was still, I could see how that helped people, that adjustment, how it brought them into a space of an inner calmness, peace. They were joined by hundreds of other people in this experience, right? It wasn't just them. But I was working with the monks to some degree in the kitchen, helping them cook stuff and all that. And it was interesting to see that. I think I probably got 100% of those people's personality, even without the talking, because they had gotten to that place where, I know how to communicate with people without talking. You point, you smile, things like that, and it helps get them. I guess it helped get the rest of us sort of accepting of the fact that this is the point of the retreat. So you can find another way that's without the noise. How you can sort of meet your day, meet your life, and walk through it without the noise. Either you hearing the noise or being the source. Best Buddhist story ever. Being the source of the noise. Anyway,
yeah, and
I digress.
that's how the sets are orchestrated. Like they're orchestrated to prime you. They're orchestrated to like prepare you for that space. I remember always feeling like the first song is usually, you start with like a high sort of medium up tempo song, something popular, something most of the congregation knows, but it's like it gets everybody feeling energetic and good and there. Second song a lot of times is the best one, or if you've got a new song or like a feature song, like kind of gets into the seriousness. If you're gonna slow things down, sometimes the third song is more intentional, because that's a lot of times right before the minister preaches. So sometimes that'll be like where you put a hymn or something serious, something that's in line with the message. And then you have the sermon, and then usually you play like another like medium serious sort of up tempo song, and then usually something upbeat to send people home. And it's that same cycle you see the people go through.
Yep.
Weekend.
Well, it's like a film. It's like the score of a film. You are undergirding everything that is going to be shown and said. It wouldn't be the same without you in the band playing along, creating, if you will, in a way, recreating the environment, because it's just a building, right? Then it's a building with people in it. Then your music is uniting those people.
Yeah. It's it's a gig. It's the but that's and that's what show business is, right? If you take a play on the road or a pop concert, it's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna be the same set day in and day out. The only thing that changes is the city that's written on that piece of tape before you go through the curtain.
The word and what God is doing, the attention is on man. These guys are jamming. These guys are getting down. These guys can really dance. Look at her. Look at him, right? And even to the point now where people are going to show off again their bodies up there. What's happening now, and it's not just, as I said, in just gospel, it's just in black gospel circles, but it's also happening in the white churches, predominantly white churches. And it's sad that we even have these black church, white church, I know, but you bear with me.
We do. Stop.
But what's happening is in all the different churches and all the different denominations, obviously sin creeps in. And there are some people out there that are talented who have no business being in choirs, who have no business being in praise and worship. I've seen churches. By the way, do you know if you have the talents here in Dallas, if you have the talent to play, let's say, an organ or piano or drums, there are churches that will pay you to come in let's say their piano player leaves or their organist, whatever, goes out of town. Well, God forbid, we got to have the music going. And so what do? We need to make sure that we got somebody in here. So we'll go and pay somebody. And these guys make a good amount of money. You can make upwards between $1,000, depending on the size of the church, $1,000, $2,000, $2,500 a week playing the organ, playing the piano in the Dallas area. Now, I don't know what it's like in certain areas. Certain areas, church isn't as big, right? But here in the Dallas area, in this area, you're going to have churches
crazy in Dallas.
Listen, I don't want to give place to the devil when I say this, but it's true. Church has become, in many cases, big business. It's become something and I get it. Every church.
It didn't.
I remember times where we
been that way since the start.
Just recently, just recently, these last few years, with this latest generation that's come up, and they're just wayward. They're just wayward.
No way. This dude's missing the point. Look, when the priests were telling the Hebrews, bring 10% of your crap and 10% of your crops and all that stuff into the temple, they were raking it in hand over fist. The greatest con in religious history had to be to put in the scriptures the priests can't own land. They have no inheritance because the priesthood is their inheritance. Great. Then as priests, you tell everybody else to do all the work. And you only got to work on the servant for when they come into the temple. You do your Torah portion and boom. Thanks, everybody, for coming. They have nonstop barbecue because they're slaughtering all these animals and giving the glory to God. I mean, they have grain. They can resell all that stuff. The greatest source of wealth in the community or storehouse of wealth probably was the temple. When the Romans broke into that temple and stole the valuables out of there, they practically built the Roman Colosseum with the proceeds. Come on, dude. Come on. It's the greatest scam ever.
Wayne said, went to a church where the pastor did fed time for stealing offerings. They had an ATM in the church facing the inside so the pastor could see who touched it. Oh, my.
I also attended a church with an ATM, which made me feel uncomfortable. Really?
Wow. And that's got to be a decision, right? Like, you have to know that it's worthwhile to purchase your own ATM.
Well, look, $3 a transaction. That's typical for Los Angeles. $2.50 to $3. Now $3.50 per transaction. You have maybe 100 transactions a day. Oh man.
Yeah. And this way they don't run to you're upside down again. I don't know how this
there are technical difficulties right now.
I don't know how you managed to do that one.
Like, not because we cared about it, but we got to pay some bills. We got to pay these things, these ministries, costs, and so forth. The gas for the van to go pick up people, that costs. All the stuff it costs.
ATM in your apartment.
The electric company doesn't care that we love the Lord. They still.
Hey man, you doing transactions like that? Good for you. I'm like, people still carry cash.
I still carry cash. One of the best reasons to still carry cash is if you go to a gas station and someone has cloned the machines. So the pumps, they can steal your ATM card and PIN number from the machines. Plus, a lot of gas stations will give you a discount if you have cash. So there's still plenty of good reasons to carry cash, because in Los Angeles, you can pay over, I saw it yesterday, Friday, gas for $7.30 a gallon. That's the highest I've ever seen it, I think, in my 26 years here in Los Angeles. So no joke.
Damn.
Yeah, it's like in my neighborhood, it's about $6.30, $6.40. So it ain't cheap and it ain't free. I'll be glad when I get to the Midwest. I don't spend so much on gas that it is hurtful financially, but like I'm like, I know gas could probably be about $3 cheaper here, and it just is.
$7.30? Yeah, that's insane.
Yep.
Yeah, it's insane. That's time to stop driving.
They want their money.
Time to go
electric. The gas company. So I get that there is a focus at some point in time on money, but sometimes we say we got to make sure that we keep folks coming in and entertained. That way they'll give, because a happy parishioner is a giving parishioner, right? And if we can entertain these people and make them feel blessed, because what's one thing that we do sometimes, and some of you folks that may have been to a predominantly black church or a charismatic church, what have you, a Baptist or a traditional Baptist church, when the music is going, we'll say, "Ooh, child, didn't we have church?" We don't know what was preached. We don't know what the topic was, but we enjoyed the Lord today. We had church, right?
Oh, there he goes.
So that shouldn't be. It should be that we went and received a...
Look, you gotta hear this part. All right.
Well, I just so you know, I can't see anything. My entire restream is frozen.
Your restream.
I can't see the chat move or anything like that. It's all frozen.
It's all.
But frozen. I can hear. Yeah, okay. I can hear.
Okay.
So I'll just go off that. I'll work with it.
It may have been to a predominantly black church or a charismatic church, what have you, a Baptist or a traditional Baptist church. When the music is going, we'll say, "Ooh, child, didn't we have church?" We don't know what was preached. We don't know what the topic was, but ooh, we enjoyed the Lord today. We had church, right? And so that shouldn't be.
That's what I mean. Like, I think right there, that really captures the sentiment. Is that's how a lot of people feel, and you've already forgotten the sermon, and I think it's fine. I just think speeches are boring. I mean, it's the same thing in education. We know lectures are not the best way to teach. They're not interactive, and there's no activity. There's no group learning. There's none of the things that we know improves people's retention in education. So it's not surprising that the church still using this outdated mode. And again, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, people know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they want to be encouraged in their faith and be reminded that God is gonna help them through their struggles or whatever. But what are they gonna learn in a sermon that they don't already kind of jive with? So I think that that's why the worship experience, the communal experience, the music is what is the distinguishing part of the experience for most people.
Be that we went and received a word from the Lord that could develop us and keep us going throughout the week, right? And so in churches today, as I said, the world creeps in. One of the biggest problems, I thought it was just in the black church, but no, it's in the white church, in the choirs, issues of sexuality. First of all, I don't know how many affairs have happened in church choirs. Don't know, but a lot. Whether it's a big church, whether it's a small church, it happens a lot. You've got men that see women who may be there for a legitimate reason, but they've got issues. They've got pain. Some guy did them wrong. And so while they may be vulnerable, this wolf sees this fox over there, and his tongue gets to hanging out, and he gets to salivate, and he sees somebody. And look here, sister, I understand what you've been going through, and me too. Can we pray together sometime? Here's my address.
Can we pray together? Oh my! Is that what the kids are calling it now?
Yes. Let's pray, and if the Spirit moves, I might lay hands on you.
If the Spirit moves, I might make one.
That was how the piano player or the organist in the church was gay. A lot of homosexuality showing up in church choirs, church praise and worship teams, because they're gifted too. And there's a lot of gay guys that can sing, and he can play. And so let's get him in here. Let's get him on. And
isn't that such a weird cognitive dissonance to deal with? Literally, you can't afford to have gays. Look, and I don't know what church you're talking about, bro. It's going to be pretty hard to hold it down because, but then this idea, but they're talented. They're talented. So they're gifted. God's giving them gifts. Go ahead.
To be fair to him, he did just talk about straight people who were also talented. But I don't know that he needed to make the distinction and include a separate category for gay people.
Well, it's interesting because
if the problem is infidelity and them sleeping with each other, who cares if they're straight or gay? That isn't even the point he needs to be making.
Well, yeah, but I think
his
that
point
is a
is they
critical
should be above
distinction.
that, and they're not.
I think that's the critical distinction, because the people who are engaged in, you know, the heterosexual, you know, activities, they're only contributing to the sexual immorality because it's extramarital or whatever. And then you just have homosexuality, then just, and there's gay people, and them just being there is part of the sexual.
Oh, you think he's taking that approach? Okay.
Yeah. He's trying to say this wouldn't be a problem. I'm not just talking about married men and women having sex with each other. Yeah. So it's just weird that, like, you know, you're just having a conversation with a Christian about something totally unrelated. Just, hey man, what do you think about this music? Oh yeah, there's a lot of shucking and jiving. I think they're starting to, you know, want a lot of attention to themselves. Okay, cool. And we're talking, and then about the sexual immorality and the gay people. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, why did he take it there? But it's just a mind virus. It really, something about taking this faith seriously just has people zeroed in on that and just makes them bigoted. There's no way he would be this bigoted if he didn't see it as tied to his religion. That's just crazy.
When I was a Christian, the thing I would go back to again and again is love one another as I have loved you, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That was my focus. Sort of everything I saw was through those two lenses on my glasses, right?
Right.
Be it my behavior, other people's behavior, and I really already had a practice of being very of other people, and that certainly didn't hurt it. But the fact is, it's hard for some people. For some Christians, that's hard to do, and they're not ready, and they're not prepared, and they don't want to. They like being, I guess. We see it when we watch people like Walter Masterson and The Good Liars. People like being closed-minded. They really do. It helps them feel more secure, and it helps them excuse their own bad behaviors and the bad behaviors of the people they approve of. So,
absolutely.
One of the things that happened. Let's get him in here, let him play, and then we'll see if we can convert him later. Because, Pastor, my God, he can't hear the gospel outside and let him come in and play. Well, guess what? That'll allow him to hear the gospel and to convert him, right? No, we're not. No, the standard is going to be the standard. The standard is up here. We're not going to lower it because somebody can play or somebody can sing. So the issue that we're having over and over again is that we are trading in actual worship for a fake worship, for a plastic lighting and smoking worship that sounds good, that tickles the ear. But wouldn't it be sad? Wouldn't it be sad to hear good music? And I mean, let's call it what it is. It's good music. Now, it's not necessarily delivering music, but let's say we hear all this good music, and maybe we hear a word, and we're entertained, and to go to church and to enjoy yourself in church and still go to hell. How bad would that be?
Is that his punchline? That's how he wraps all this up.
Nice outro.
Oh my goodness.
It's consistent with what he's been saying, I think, to some degree, because the music, his point is the music isn't the point, and his point is that there is a proper way to view it and refocus back on the messages of the Bible. So I'd say from his Christian point of view, he's not wrong. A lot of what the Bible says again and again is to bring a person into alignment, right? They're out of alignment, bring them into alignment. You've strayed off the path. Here, brother, sister, let me guide you back onto the path with gentleness, kindness, and show you how to stay responsible. That's what it's about. And so I think to some degree he is a bit of a scold, but I think he's doing that to be fair to him. I think he stayed consistent in his message.
Yeah.
And I guess there probably would be gospel music in hell just for the irony.
Yeah, never-ending gospel music.
Played through Bose speakers.
I think he was.
So you're missing the highs.
I think he was dead on, in the sense that a lot of people in the church feel this way, and this is sort of the attitude. So he kind of epitomized it well. Like he represented this perspective of, the church has lost its way and da da da. For me, as an atheist, it's more of a problem because it's just become this experiential, charismatic thing where people see the worship largely centered on the music as part of their personal experience and their personal relationship with Jesus. And so it's got them stuck in that emotional feedback loop, right? And that to me is what's really wrong with it, is that it becomes the center of the identity making, I guess I'd call it. And to me, that is a big part of what shuts down the possibility for critical thinking with these people. So I mean, it's a totally different take on it. And also I think it's the nature of the beast. I think it'll always be this way. Churches they're trying to keep up. They're trying to be popular. Like I said, they're competing to put asses in seats and eyeballs on the platform and the money that comes along with it. So I think it's just going to continue to go this way. And I think largely the ministries that do this type of stuff well, especially the larger ones, they just ignore these criticisms. They just literally don't care.
Of course, look, if the money's flowing in and you're packed to the rafters, the parking lot is full. How do you even know if you're doing anything wrong? It doesn't. The appearance of doing something wrong may be so minor that you don't pick up on it, or you don't care. This is the success that you've wanted, or you've exceeded the success you've always wanted. Why stop? Just like the ancient Hebrews who got their butts kicked by the Romans when the Romans took all their stuff and they took away all that gold and treasure and stuff like that. God never kept a dime of it. Right. And so in modern day times, when you got 26,000, 16,000, 32,000 people joining your servers every week in the building, forget the online presence on top of that.
Right.
Why would you listen to other people at all and change things, right? Benny Hinn, we saw it. He was, okay, I'm going to step back and repent and not ask people for money because that's just not spiritual. Give me 3 weeks to go back to what I was doing. I just need to say this right now because I was in my feelings. And he goes back to doing what he was doing before, right?
Exactly.
So a dog returning to his profits, not his vomit, his profits. So I think that's the thing to keep in mind. If they have a successful formula, I doubt they give it up. I mean, we see some of these mega church pastors, they cheat on their wives, have a very public affair or whatever, just, and then they go back or they stay in ministry or they get booted and they start over somewhere else. I guess a guy who didn't do that was, what's the guy's name? They made a song about him, how he's completely heterosexual, Ted Haggard. So I don't think he stayed in ministry. I think he went and did other things. But a lot of guys, no matter what they went through, they would stay in ministry.
Yeah.
And honestly, for him, if that's where your heart is, there's people who are going to forgive you for what you did because it was a very personal thing. It's between him and his wife and the law. But if he feels like he's got something to say and he can keep on preaching, he can fill a church up again. Probably not the same church, but he can pack them in there once again.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think that's. I just think they stuck in it. There's nothing else they can do probably to that level of financial success. So
save your money. They could save their money, and then you know what? Just like I told my brother, he just sold his company. Was it 2 years ago now? And he's still working there. That's his contract with them. But I told him when he told me they were gonna make all this money, I says, you better figure out what you're gonna do when you leave. Before you leave, you better figure out what you're gonna do with yourself. So he's not aimless.
yeah.
Right? He doesn't lose his sense of purpose. Him and his partners built this thing. It got huge. And another company came in and said, we'd like to buy that. Well, we'd like to sell it. Now, all three of them have to figure out what to do with themselves.
Exactly.
The workers are still, the rank and file workers, they're still going to be there. But the top people, no, they're gone. And they should, in my opinion, they should go.
Yeah,
So.
probably. All right. Well, do you have any concluding thoughts for today?
I want to try to put a smile on YouTube Punk's face because he suggested that I sing opera, and it's AR's birthday. And so I want to combine the two. As I said, Pocket Locker, my voice is very flexible. So this is for YouTube Punk, AR, you, and the Hot Program audience. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear AR. Happy birthday to you. I have a good microphone. I should have hooked this thing up.
Bam.
But yeah, there you go.
Fantastic. All right, gang. On that note, we'll be in Gather. Come hang out. There's links in the description. Like the channels, the videos, subscribe, share. Y'all know how to do the YouTube stuff. Love you guys.
Yes.
Set them going. Be good to yourselves.
Andy